welcome to class. All right, good evening once again, everybody. Welcome to this is class 5 for fundamental data and fundamental SQL for data analysis, fundamental MySQL for data analysis. I believe that we have made progress so far with a lot of us here. Yesterday, I took out some time to ask for reviews for the class, and a few people gave back their reviews. If you also have reviews, something you didn't understand, something like maybe a challenge you are having, you can also drop it on the chat box so that we'll find a way to help you. But today we'll be going directly to class. I hope that we are all together and working together today. So let's get back to my workbench. Let me share my screen. So before I even go to class to even start asking questions today, let me see. Please kindly use your chat box to respond to my question. Every time we need to, in MySQL, if we need to maybe replace or modify a value in our database, which of the keyword do we use? From what we discussed yesterday, those of us in class yesterday, which keyword do we use to replace values or modify or change values? Nice, Funke Gloria, sharp one. Okay, it's not insert into. I said modify or change values or replace values. What we use is update and set. So we use update and set keyword to modify values. What if we need to remove a row containing values? What do we do? Which one do we use? Nice. So we have delete from, right? The full keyword is delete from. Then we have the table name, and then you can now specify the values you want to delete, okay? Or the conditions for the value you want to delete. Makes sense, makes sense. All right, so the last one is, what if we want to add a new row? From what we discussed yesterday, if we need to add a new row, what do you do? Insert into. Okay, so I think we can make progress from here. All right, thanks, guys. You guys are doing well. I'm proud. You guys are making me proud, Aji. Okay, let's bring it to class now. So yesterday we said if we need to manipulate database, either we want to delete records, replace records, or add new records, what we need to do is, for the first one we did a sample, we created a sample table with which we worked yesterday. So the first thing that we did yesterday was to insert new values. So we did insert into table name, then the values, we now specify the values. And we also said that if you need to specify the values, the values would have to be arranged in the same order as your columns have been arranged. So if your first column is name, maybe first name, your second column is last name, if you arrange your values this way, this A is going to go into the first column, B is going to go into the second column, and so on and so forth. So you must ensure to arrange your values in the same order in which your columns are arranged. So we also mentioned that to be successful with this operation, the number of values that you need to insert should be equivalent to the number of columns you have in your table. So if you have like 5 columns, you won't be able to insert just 4 values, okay? Because you have 5 columns, and you won't be able to insert 6 values. So in that case, what do we do in that case when we need to insert less values than the number of our columns? We said we need to specify the names of the columns that we want to insert the values into. So here we have about 4 values. So we specified the 4 columns where we want to insert values into, and then we inserted the values, okay? So we had that yesterday. Then other than that, we went further to start talking about update and set. So in the update and set, we said, well, anytime we need to replace a value, we will use update and set. One of the most important things we mentioned for update and set yesterday is that whenever you are performing this operation of update and set, always ensure that you have your where clause inserted, like you run it, like you insert your where clause before running that code. Simple reason is that yesterday we said if you need to, for instance, here where we have update sample and then we now have set region equal Western region. What we would have here is that all the table, if you don't add this where column, all of your table will be updated to Western region. Okay, so that's the reason why we must always try to have our where clause before we do that update. So that where clause will allow you to write the conditions with which you can pick out the rows that you are interested in. And then we said anytime that your update and set keyword or function, every time it's going to affect two or more rows that you are not interested in, you have to concatenate or add two or more conditions. Okay, so we can add two or more conditions so that it will pick the exact row that we are interested in. So more on that with the class recording for yesterday, which is already up on our YouTube channel. So you can just go there and go through that again. So let me not go so we don't keep beating on what we discussed yesterday. Last thing we discussed yesterday was deleting values. So with deleting values, we said we just have to use delete from the name of the table, right? And then under our where here, we can now specify the conditions for the row that we want to delete. So we can say where the row name is A or something, where the name is A, or whatever conditions we need to write with our where statement. And I believe that we discussed all about writing conditions, creating conditions when we are discussing where keyword from the beginning of our class. I think that should be in class 2. Okay, so day 2 of this training, we discussed everything about conditions. So if you understand everything we did in that class, then all of this would not be a challenge to you. All right. So yesterday we were going to talk about aggregations in MySQL, and then we didn't eventually talk about it because network interrupted what we are doing. So today we are going to take it up from aggregation. Okay. So today we'll be talking about aggregations. Under aggregations, yesterday we explained aggregation functions. Can anyone remind me of what we said yesterday about aggregation functions? What did we say aggregation functions allows us to do? Chat box, quickly. I know you're trying to wait for somebody to respond before you, so you better start responding before I call your name. What did we say aggregation? We gave help us to bring values together and get one value. Funke Gloria is on fire. Okay, so I think we have an insight from what Gloria has already stated here. So what we said yesterday, what aggregation functions allows us to do is that it allows us to put a lot of values together and return one values for those values. Okay, return one thing for those values. So I'm going to explain that briefly. Among the aggregation functions, we said we have count, sum, minimum, maximum, average. Okay, so these are some of the most popular aggregation functions that we have in MySQL and in statistics generally. So the idea behind all of this is that in all of these functions, would always return one value. Okay, so if for instance you want to count the total number of rows that you have in your database, it will return to you one value. If the total number of rows are 250, for instance, it will return to you 250. That's one value, but it will put all 250 rows together and count it to return one value. So that's what aggregation does. Put a lot of values together, but return one. In the same way, if you want to sum all the populations together, what will happen? It will take up all the numbers of all the countries' population, put them together, aggregate them together, and then return to you the sum of them. That's addition. Okay. If you want to look for the minimum population, also, it will put all the population together and then look for the one that has the smallest value and return that. If you want to also look for maximum population, it will do the opposite. Put all the values together and then look for the one that has the largest population, okay, for max. And then in the same way to average, we all know our average. It will sum everything together and divide it by the number of occurrences. Okay, so these are the most popular aggregation functions. So how do we get to use them in MySQL? That's what we're talking about today, how to use aggregation functions in MySQL. But before we do that, let's just go back to our database and see what we have with the data. Let me select everything from country. let's use this country. Yesterday, I stated that these aggregation functions, all of these aggregation functions like this, they all work with, I stated that they all work with new columns that contain numbers, okay? It's because you cannot sum text, you cannot look for the minimum for text, you cannot look for maximum text, you cannot look for average for text, a text-based column. So it's only counts when it gets to text-based columns, the aggregation that you can perform with text-based columns are counts aggregation. But when you get on numerical column, you can either sum all the values in the columns, look for the minimum value, look for the maximum value, or look for the average values. So that's how these aggregation functions are splitted. All right, so let's see what we have from this our country table. Okay, so look at this our country table. This is the table we've been dealing with ever since we started this training. So let's say, for instance, we want to, for instance, your manager is asking, so what are the total numbers of entries that we have? Okay, total number of entries means all the, do you remember from the beginning of this class, I think I mentioned, if I've not mentioned, then let me just mention it now, that in database, in data field, any field that has to do with data, all of our columns are called fields, okay? So we have code field, name field, continent field, the field for region, field for surface area, independent. So the second word, we popularly know it as columns, but the second word for it in database is field. And then what we know as rows like this, all of these rows like this, in database, they are called entries, okay? So all of these are called entries. Okay, so sometimes other than entries, sometimes they're also called records. Okay, so all of these rows that can also be referred to as records. Okay, so let's say, for instance, in these are record. I think someone is dropping. Okay, class rep, talk to me.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
But it's so low.
My audio?
Yes.
Really?
Just went down suddenly.
Is that the same for everybody?
It's okay here. It's okay on my end.
I'm asking.
It's okay on my end.
First fish.
It's okay here.
It's okay. Oh yeah. Let me go on.
It's okay.
Okay. All right. So I think it's from your end, Mrs. Bukola.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. All right, let's get back to class. So back to this. So yesterday I was not yesterday now. The example I was going to make is I was saying that if your manager asks for the total number of entries or the total number of records that we have here for all of the countries, that's to say total number of countries that we have here, how would you get the total number of countries? You have to count. Okay, so if we're counting, we're going to most likely do something like this to say let's say, let me put this comment. Total number of countries recorded. So this is what we are going to have. So usually if we want to, let's say we want to pick up a column, what we're going to do something like this, right? To say code, select code from country, right? That's if we don't want to bring out the whole database. So if I run this, let me show you what will happen. We're going to have only our code column, okay? So this is what I'm going to do now. For us to use that count function to get out the total number of countries that we have, we can use the keyword for count code, okay? Do you see this? So select count of code from country. So if I do this like this, let's run this like this. Do you now see that we have 239? In other words, the total number of countries that we have here is 239. Now, let me state out something. The reason why I'm using code instead of name is because in this table, let me do something. Let's put names and see how many names we have. Most likely, we might have the same records too. We might have the same 239. Okay, so it's the same 239. So whether I counted code or I counted name, it will still give me the same 239. Okay, but let me explain how this works. Every time you step into a database, there has to be a column, like any table. There has to be a column that is unique to every entry. Okay, let me state this. Like if you go to your company now, in your company, maybe not your company, even in your school. Okay, so a lot of us are graduates here in this place, right? Majority of us. While you are in school, there's something that is called your matriculation number. Okay, that matriculation number is unique to you alone. Personally, when I was in school, my matriculation number was U13 IS 1094 or so. U13 IS 1094. So the U there is for whatever is it either UTME. The 13 was the year I got into school. Then the IS is course code, and then the 1094 was my own number. Till date, from the beginning of that school till date, nobody has U13 IS 1094. And if they continue with that same pattern till the end of the world, nobody is going to have U13 IS 1094. So if you go to my school database and you want to pick out Honor Matthew, you will not be looking for my name as Honor Matthew, because from the beginning of my school till date, I'm very, very certain that there should be one Honor Matthew or the other, maybe in the school record. There must have been plenty honors, because it's not even only me that went to the school. Myself, my sister went to the school, my brother went to the same school. So if you use honor as a search query, you'll find hundreds of people that bear honor, that have gone through, that are recorded in the school. You won't be able to pick me out. If you use honor Matthew, you may find a number of people with the same name also. But when you use my registration number, U13IS 1094, it will be only me you are picking out. So that value, that matriculation number now becomes my name in that database. Like it becomes my unique identity in the whole of that record. Okay. So every time you're dealing with database, before you start doing anything, you have to look for that column that contains unique entry for each, like unique record for each entry. Let me show you something. Okay. Let's get back to this. So let's assume in this table here that we're seeing here, code, name, continent, region, blah, 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 where we have the highest probability that we will not have repetition is code here, this code column. This is where the highest probability exists that we cannot have two countries bearing the same code. But most likely, you know that under continent, region, we have two or more countries in one continent. In Africa now, we have a lot of countries and we have different regions even in Africa and stuff. So we have repetitions under the rest of this column. The only place where most likely to under name in this database, it can pass that under name too. There might not be any repetition, because we know that there are no two countries bearing the same name currently. So in this database, there might not be any repetition, but even if there were repetition, say two countries were bearing Nigeria, maybe there's one Nigeria in Africa and there's another country in the United States that is also called Nigeria, their code will never be the same. I'm talking about country code now. So in this database now, this code column now becomes the column that contains unique value for each entry. So every time you are asked to find the total number of something, the column you have to use to perform that kind of count aggregation has to be a column that does not provide what's the word now? Is it the probability of duplicates? Okay. So let's try something out. If, for instance, you are looking for the total number of continents now, let's do something. Continents. Do you see that we still have the same number of continents here, like 239? Okay, I'm going to need some level of interaction now. Are we together?
Yes.
Thanks, Fish. Okay, so do you not see that in this same place now, even though how many continents are we supposed to have in the world?
7.
7.
I thought continents were up to 11.
No, 7.
Okay. Okay, so do you not see that in this place now? Let me show you something. Count distinct code. 239, count distinct continents. Let's put this in capital letter. Do you now see that we have 7 here? On this other hand, under code, we still have 239. Do you see this? 239, but that of continents give us 7. Okay, so let's discuss this now properly. So what I'm trying to say here is, in this code column, do you now see that when we counted distinct values, to say we want to count if what every time you see distinct in codes and all that, when we are counting, every time we are in data analysis, when you see distinct count, it means that it does not count any value 2 times. Okay, that's what distinct count means. That is the count that does not, is the kind of count that would not count 2 values as like the same value. It won't count the same value 2 times. So if, for instance, like under this continent now, you know that Africa repeated itself as much times as we had countries in Africa. We also have America, so there were only 7. So without this distinct count, you'd notice that we have 239, which is equivalent to the total number of rows that we have in this database. But when we perform a distinct count, it means that once it counts Africa as 1 value, anywhere Africa appears again, it will not count it again because it has already counted Africa. If I want to explain that to you, I will explain it to you in the sense of the Nigerian flag, for instance. Okay, so in Nigerian flag, how many colors do we have in Nigerian flag?
2.
I don't understand this one that you guys are saying. Me, the Nigerian flag I know is we have three colors in Nigerian flag.
We are counting distinct.
But it's green and white.
Okay, so what you're counting is you're counting distinct. I'm counting normal count. Okay, so in the case of counts, when you're counting in data analysis, we have 3 types of counts. Let me see if I can get my notepad up and ready. In data analysis, we have 3 types of counts generally. We have the first kind of count that we have is, let me do this. The first kind of count that we have is the normal count, which is just counts. The second kind of count is distinct count. Okay. The third kind of count is unique count. Okay. So let me explain this now. In this normal count for Nigerian flag now, according to normal count, we have 3. Okay, which is green, white, green. Okay, this is normal count to count each of them. So normal count will count duplicates. So if we did normal count for MySQL, now what we are going to have is, sorry, for continents. Sorry, can you mute your audio, please? If you are, your audio is on. Thank you. Kindly mute your audio, please. There's someone who needs to mute their audio. Thank you very much. Okay, so in my for Nigerian flag now, our normal count is 3. Okay, so 3 is green, white, and green. So whether we have green and green again here, it will still count it as 2 values. So that's normal count. It will count every duplicate. So when we get to distinct count, for distinct count we have 2. In the case of that distinct count does not count duplicates. So as it counted green here as 1 value, green as 1 value, counted white as another value. If it gets to this green, it won't count it again because it has already counted it before. So according to distinct count, we have green and white, according to class rep. So when it gets to unique count, we in Nigerian flag, still using this in Nigerian flag scenario, when it gets to unique count, we have only 1 color, 1 unique color. Okay, so the unique count is the count of values that didn't appear more than once. Okay, so in this Nigerian flag now, the unique color is white because white only appeared once. Okay, so here we have green. Normal count, we have green, white, green, 3 colors. Distinct count, we have green and white. We don't count the duplicate. All the duplicate are still counted as 1 value. Okay, so we only have green and white. Unique count, we only count values that appear only once. If it appears more than once, we don't count it. So in this case, we only have white. All right. So let me see. Small exercise. Monday, Tuesday, Monday, Wednesday. We cannot see these values. Normal count, how many values do we have?
4. 4.
Okay.
4.
All right. Distinct count, how many values do we have?
3.
3.
3. 3.
Unique count, how many values do we have?
2. 3.
2.
2. 1.
2.
Okay, 2. 2. 2.
No, 2.
Okay.
2.
So
2.
for unique, our unique counts, what and what are unique in these records?
Tuesday and
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Monday.
Unique count.
Unique
Wednesday.
counts, Tuesday and Wednesday,
And Wednesday.
they only appear once. Okay. So if we go to
Okay.
distinct counts,
Yeah.
yes, Tuesday appeared once. We don't
Okay.
have a repetition. Unique count also appeared once. So this one and this one are unique.
Okay.
Okay. So if we go to distinct count, we have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Okay. And if we go to normal count, we have Monday, Tuesday, Monday, and Wednesday. Okay. So that's how we have all our counts in data analysis. This is clear, right?
Yes.
All right.
Very, very clear.
Thank you. Class rep, your hand is still up. Is this old hand?
Old and.
Okay. All right. Time for everybody to go mute again. Let's continue with class. All right. So here, if we understand distinct count, unique count, normal count, it means that every time we step back now and say we want to count this table now, to count the values in this table, if we need to count all the countries in this table, it means that for us to in this table now, we know that we know that there are no duplicates with the country names, because we know that there are no two countries that bear the same name, right? No two countries bear the same name. But if you're counting like names of customers, blah blah blah, and you have hundreds of thousands of records, you cannot come and say you're doing normal count. Okay, you cannot perform just your normal count to say count your normal count to count the total number of customers that you have. If you did normal count, there's the tendency that there might be two customers that don't even know each other. They are not even related from Adam at all, but they bear the same name. Okay, so most times what you do in that case is perform a distinct count. And even when you are performing a distinct count, you have to select the right column to perform the count on. That's what I've been trying to explain since. Okay, so in this case now, if I wanted to count all the total number of countries that we have here, the right column for me to use most likely is code, because this code column has the lowest probability of duplicates. Okay, so I can just perform count for code. Other than that, if I wanted to increase my probability of removing duplicates entirely, then I have to use distinct count. All right, so if we have this now, you can see that from here now we have the total number of countries in our database by counting code. So we have about 239 entries. Okay, so if we want to see the total number of continents in this our database also, what do we have? 7. What if we wanted to see the total number of region? I wanted to see the total number of regions that we have. Select, count. So we have name of our column is region. Okay, from table name is country. So if we have this, let's see what we have here. We have about 239 regions, but let's perform a distinct count to get the actual number. Distinct count of region. We have about 25 distinct regions around the world, all over the world. Okay. Now, let me give us this small exercise classwork to do. So let's say, for instance, we want to count the total number of countries that are in West Africa as a region. Okay, total number of countries in West Africa. How do we write the code? Text box, let's go. ASAP. Total number of countries in West Africa. This is me giving you white rice and then asking you to give me fried rice prepared with butter. Is anybody attempting it? Select count Dixon code from country. Ugoma, did you hear my question? Don't make me shoot you. Pastor Walola, it's good to have you in class today. Welcome to class, boss.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. Let's go. Ugoma. Be gingering me. Where's Funke Gloria? I thought you were on fire. Where are you? Gloria, where are you? Wahid. Select count West Africa from Wahid. This is your code like this. I'm asking you to give me fried rice, but you're giving me akara. Wahid. Select count Dixon code from country where region equal West Africa. This your code is adding up. Select counts of country from continent where class ref, me and you will start throwing boxing. So class ref, this your code is also adding up, but you are mixing things up. Like when you say select count of country is the name of our table. It's not a column inside our table. So that count is supposed to be like count of a column name.
Yeah, right.
Then when you say from
Let me
continent,
take it.
continent is now the column. Okay, so you now say that you're mixing up arguments. Okay. All right. Let me see. I think we have a very good attempt from Ugoma and class rep. Let me see. Who is counting West Africa from country? Deborah, me and you like this now. It's not even, it's kickboxing that me and you would do. All right, so we have good attempts so far. So pretty much to not delay class, let's just get to it directly. Trust me, my assignment is coming. Select. So what we have is, what we said we wanted to do is to get the total numbers of countries in West Africa. Okay. So what we can have is select count so if we wanted to use, instead of country name, if we wanted to use, for instance, maybe code, we can use code here like Ugoma did. So from count of code is the name of our column now, from name of the table, country. Okay, then we can now say where region equal West Africa. Oops, here. Okay, so if we try this like this now, let's get back to it. Did we just have 0? We have a region called West Africa. Let's go back to our database first. So first off, if I was writing this code, let me do something. Select everything from country. Okay. So if I do this, let's first get the table one after the other. Is there a region for West Africa in Central Africa? There's definitely West Africa. Oh, okay. See how the West Africa is spelled. It's spelled Western Africa, not West Africa. Western Africa in our database. So let me just copy that value. Well, I'd rather just type it. Okay, so we're looking for select. Let's get this out. So my spelling for the Western Africa was wrong. That's why we have this. Okay, so select count of code from country where region is equal to Western Africa. So if we do this, you see that we have about 17 countries in Western Africa. Okay, 17 countries in Western Africa. So let me just do this thing again. I think I did it before in our previous class, but let me do this again. This is your cheat code every time you're working with MySQL. You need to know what values, what should follow each keyword. Okay, so every time you write select, what should follow that keyword? We said either asterisk to stand for everything or the column names. Okay, every time you write from, what should follow? Table name. Okay, every time you write where, what should follow? Condition. Every time you write order by, what should follow? Column name. Column name, and then you can either put your argument for ascending or descending. Let's change this keyboard back to US. I'm very used to US keyboard. Ascending or descending. Okay. Every time you write limit, so what do we have every time we write limit? Numbers of rows. So let's put n rows there. Okay. So if you put select, don't be thinking of table name. Think of country name. Column name. If you put from, think of table name. If you put where, think of condition. If you put order by, think of the column name that you want to use to do the sorting for the order by, and then think of whether you want it in ascending or descending order. When you think of limit, what are you going to put here? Numbers of rows. This is your cheat sheet for retrieving data in MySQL. This is the cheat. If you understand this, you won't have a challenge. And then the last thing we said is that every time we need to write a condition is made up of what? Column name. To break down condition, we say it's made up of, first off, column name. Secondly, we have comparison operator. Lastly, we have values. Okay. I hope I'm not speaking French. So if I'm saying where, I have to specify where region, which is now region is the name of my column. Okay. Then my comparison operator is equal to, greater than. Remember the comparison operators we mentioned the other day? We said greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. We said we have equal to. We said we have not equal to. Okay. So we also had between here. Between, then we also mentioned that we have like. Okay, so these are some of the comparison operators that we mentioned. So every time you're writing your condition, you have to specify that where region, then equal to, then the value will be the value you're looking for inside region column, like for instance Western Africa in this case. So these are your cheat sheets. Don't forget this. You have to, this has to be like at the back of your hand. If you're working with SQL, you have to know how to manipulate your database using all of this, most especially your condition and where. This is very, very important, not to be joked with. Okay, so let's get back to class. So here we said select count of code. So this code now stand, each code represents, this code that we are counting, each code represents a country, right? So we are counting each of this code for, because each of them represents a country. Select count of code from country where region equal Western Africa. Okay, so this is our condition. All of this statement like this is our condition. Here we have the column name, like the way we broke it down. Here we have the operator. Then here we have the value we are looking for inside the column. So this will obviously give us 17, that we have about 17 countries in Western Africa alone. Okay, one more exercise before we move away from this now. What if we need to pick up like the whole, the count of all the countries in Africa? Count of all the countries in Africa. Chat box, let's go. First fish. This your response is also nice, but we don't have continent equal Africa. Okay, I think you corrected it, so this is fine. This works. Okay, so I'm saying, how do we get out the total number of countries in Africa? Select count of code from country where Ahmed, correct your code. Ogoma, you can send your code in pieces. Oh yeah, quick. Here's the remaining part of your code. Ahmed, correct your code. Who is giving me region? I said all the countries in Africa. Africa is a continent. Africa is not a region. Africa is a continent. Nice one, Ahmed. Nice one, Ahmed. Okay, so we already have a response here. Say if we need all the countries in Africa, if we need to count all countries in Africa, we have to specify. Let's go back again and look at our table, the table we are dealing with. Okay. So first off, select count. So if we want to put distinct, we can put distinct, but since we are very sure that there are no duplicates, we can just go ahead to put count of code, right? From, what's the name of our table? Country. Name of the table is country in itself, where now you know that what we are looking for is all the countries in Africa as a continent, okay? So what we are looking for is continent, not region. So we are saying where continent, now we are writing conditions. First thing about condition, column name, where our column name is continent, equal the value we are looking for, Africa. Okay, so if we have this like this now, we can check out the total number of countries we have in Africa, which is about 58 countries, 17 of which are in West Africa. Okay, so pretty much this is how we use our count keyword every time we're working with MySQL. Same thing, if we wanted to look for the total population of the world, like total world population that we have here, we have to use the sum, right? Because sum is what adds up everything. So like we said, sum, minimum, maximum, average, they all work on numeric columns. So if I go back to that, my database, to say select everything from country, if I try to put this out, you notice that the only columns where we have numeric this in our numeric columns, we have population contains numbers, independence here contains number, surface area contains number, life expectancy contains number, GNP contains number, that's the gross national product, and then old gross national product contains numbers. So let's say I'm looking for the total population, like world population, from this my database. Now this is a bit of data analysis that we are doing already with MySQL. World population. So if I needed to do that, I'm going to write my code like this. Select, right? So what do we have here? Sum population. Okay, from, what's that table name? Country. So you see that here, instead of count, I'm using sum now, right? So from country, since I'm summing up all the entire population, there's no need to write a where keyword. Run that. Here we have about 6 billion blah 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 blah. Accountant, thank you very much. This was the number as when we have these records. I'm not very good with number. 6 billion 78 74 94 50. Thank you. Ogoma, don't worry. I'm going to send this to you. Call the number for me. So this is like our total world population. What if we are looking for the country with the minimum population in the world? I'm going to still copy this code again. Country with the minimum population. We just have to change this aggregation from sum to what? Mean. Okay. So if we try to run this with mean, we're going to get the minimum population. Okay, so the minimum population obviously is 0, because if you check yesterday, from what we were doing yesterday, there were some countries that we said had 0 population entirely. Okay, so that, we have 0. What if I want to check the country with the largest population, maximum population? What would I have here? Let's return that. Okay, so the country with the largest population. So all of this we are doing now, you see that they are all returning 1 values each. What if I wanted to see the average population of the world? Let's try that and see. Change this to average. Average, okay. Average is AVG. Let's try that. So this is the average population of the world. So you can see that all of this now, I've been able to use all of this to bring out values. Now let's do this. Let's make it make more sense. All of what we have been doing now, it has been bringing out 1111 number for us. So let's say, for instance, we want to look for all the no, let's not do this yet. Nope, I'm jumping ahead of myself. So do we understand this so far? Before I will come and add something else that would confuse us. Questions? Thanks. No questions at all. Can we make progress? All right. I'm going to take that as no questions and that we should make progress. Welcome, Chief. Okay, so if we understand this totally now, it means that we can pull out a lot of things like statistics from our columns in MySQL. Let me see what we have here. Did someone raise their hand? Because I heard a bit of, I heard the notification. Okay, we don't have anything here. All right, let's get back to class then. So these are different ways that we can use aggregation functions to pull out data from our to pull out information from our databases. So let's talk about aliases a bit. Now, if you notice something, every time we said pull out average population, okay, you notice that the name of our column here becomes average population. Okay, if we say pull out maximum population, if we run this code for maximum population, notice the name of the column, max population. Okay, if we do this one, sum of population, you see that, oops, highlight the whole thing and run. Okay, so you see that we have sum population as the column name. So let's talk about alias a bit. So what alias allows us to do is to give a more descriptive title to all of our column names. Okay, so let's say, for instance, now if these are sum of population, now if I wanted to, let's bring this down. Of course, we say if you run this, what you are going to get as your column name is sum of population. Sum population. So what if I wanted to give this name? What if I wanted to rename this as total population? So what this is going to be like is select sum of population. Then I'm now going to put this. This is where my alias comes in as. So we'll call it total population. Okay, so if I run this now, see the difference. See what we have here, sum of population. If I execute this, what am I going to have? Do you see that the column name changes from sum of population to total population? So this works every time we need to give our columns more descriptive names or titles. Okay, every time we need to give our columns more descriptive name. For instance, let's go back to this our country table now. If we let's select everything from country. For instance, this name now, if for instance I wanted to retrieve data from this my table, and this name now, this name is not doing justice to me. I'd rather have it as country names instead of to just have it as names only. Okay, so in that case, what am I going to do in this case? Like, what's the difference? Let me show you something. Let's get back to this. So we have code instead of country code, we have name instead of country name, we have continent, we have region. So if I'm interested in these 4 columns, to using aliases now, I can do something like this to say select, okay? So code, right? Name, continent, region, okay, from country, okay. So let's try to execute this. I'm just going to pick out only those 4 columns now. So we have code, continent, code, name, continent, and region. Now let's use aliases to modify this table and see what we're going to get. Select code. Let's have as country underscore code, comma. Let's have name as country name, comma. Okay, what do we have here? Then we have continent and region. Okay, so we now have from country. See, now we're beginning to write long codes little by little now. So if I execute this, see what I'm going to have. Do you see the difference now? Do you now see that our column has been renamed to country code, country name, continent, and region? So who asks what's the difference? Can you see the difference now? Okay, AJ, what's up? Talk to me.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I was going to ask, when we created that table and we say create table, I will now put as. What if we want to, can't we name a table as we want? How do we name it when we are creating a table? Is it possible?
Like if you want to rename your table in your database.
Yes, while we are creating the table.
Why are you jumping like this with catapults? Like just enter slingshots too.
No, because we put as there. That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
That as
So
from this as.
I'm going to dodge that question, because if I start talking about that question, I know myself, I'm going to most likely stumble across. I'm going to most likely stumble across something that will need me to do more explanations. So let's just leave that until we get to the creation of database, okay?
Sure.
We will still create the database.
Yeah, we'll still do that as a topic so we can discuss that. So let me just
Okay.
get ahead of myself and get us all confused. What's the difference between total population and sum of population? It's just description. There's no difference between total population and sum of population. It's description. Is the way, like, putting the idea behind all of these aliases is giving your columns names that anytime somebody looks at it, the person understands it. And if you weigh between sum of population and total population, you know that to a total population makes more sense than sum of population. Okay, so that one is just tautology. There's no difference as to data significance. All right, so let's just move from there. So do you now see how our alias works? Okay, so we can use this alias code as, then we specify the name that we want. Now, part of the rules that we need to note in this alias is that you cannot use a 2-word alias. Okay, by 2-word alias, what I mean is you cannot have select code as country space then code. Do you notice that we already are having error here? Because here what we have is 2 words, okay? So say country and then code. These are 2 words. So you cannot use a 2-word alias. An alias is supposed to be 1 word. But in a case like where we want to put country code where there are 2 words, there are different ways you can go around it. You can go around it without space to say country code spelled together like this. Secondly, you can use underscore to create space. Okay. Or thirdly, if you insist on having the space, then you have to put the country name inside quotes. Okay, like this. So if I say select code as country code, do you now see that because of this space quotes that I've put here, now this space now can pass as everything, even though there's space, all of this can still pass as 1 word. Okay, so an alias must always be 1 word. If it has to be 2 word, it has to either be quoted with space in between, or you have to put an underscore between them, like this case, or write them together. So that's like what you need to note every time you're working with aliases in MySQL. Do we understand this? If by dash you mean this, if by dash you mean this, then that would not work because this symbol here is a symbol of is the same thing as minus in MySQL. So instead of this symbol, you'd rather use an underscore. Okay. So in this case now, how MySQL is trying to read this is like it's trying to read it like saying country minus name instead of country name. Okay. So that's the reason why we don't use dash. Rather, we use underscore. Any other questions from here? Thanks. No questions. Okay. That means we can make progress from here. Little by little, we're making really good progress with MySQL. I know that for some of us, we feel like the class is slow. Mr. Matthew, you can talk too much, Joe. Okay. So okay, we have time. Let's come to the topic, the big boys topic. You guys are big boys now in MySQL. Let me share a story with you guys. So when I started learning data analysis some years ago, I got this job offer. It was a company they just came into Nigeria newly from Canada, and they were going to pay in dollars. So they were asking, they said they needed somebody who understood database. See me now, I just jump. I say, I'm very, very good at it, sir. So they were like it was a friend that recommended the job for me because he worked with the client on freelance ground. So they were looking for a data analyst too, somebody who knew SQL very well. So my friend recommended me and gave my number to those people. So me, in my mind, I said, I'm very, very good at it. I was waiting. I was expecting that they will invite me. They will invite me for interview. I didn't know they were going to call me over phone. God. They caught me off guard. It was not fair at all. That's how the man called. He said, so what do you do? After lying and lying, I said, I did this. I know how to do this. I know how to do that. I have this project. But that time, truly, that time in my mind, what I was freaking about was Python. Gosh, if you touch me like this with Python that time, like this, your hand will just start smelling barbecue. Like my head was hot with Python. So I had not paid a lot of attention to SQL because I was just trivializing it. I was saying, it's not that one, is not the complex thing. It's Python that is the complex thing. So I gave Python a lot of attention. So that's how the man now said. So for example, say I want to retrieve a table and the name of the table is this. What code do I write? Jesus. Over phone call. I could not browse. I could not do anything. I swear I had already forgotten what select even looks like in MySQL or in SQL generally. I just had to confess. I just said the answer. So it's not like I don't know it. It's that right now where I am, I can't really place it. But if you give me a moment, I will get back to you. The man just said, thank you very much. I think I like you as a person and all of that, but for now we will need to continue. Maybe some other opportunities will call you back. It was really, really painful because the simple question they were asking is this same thing that I've been writing like 100 times, like this, to select asterisks from country. When I went back to sit down on my SQL notes, that's the day I started paying attention to SQL till today. So what you guys are learning, you might not, it might not look like it makes any sense right now, but please commit it to your memory as much as you can. You never can tell where the opportunity will come from. Maybe by now I would have been working in one Canadian company now, earning in dollars, Canadian dollars actually. All right, so let's get back to class. The big boys topic, joins. Where do I start from? Let's do a bit of discussion. Somebody give me motivation, motivation, motivation. Class rep, are you giving me
I'm
motivation?
with you.
Are you
I
giving me
want to go and
motivation?
apply for that job that was posted. And then we carry.
Yeah, you should. You should. You should. At least you
Should
have
care.
foundational. Yeah, like you guys have for SQL for data analysis now, with what we've covered so far, if you are confident about what we've covered so far, you can say with this topic we're about to start treating right now about joins, you're confident that you're like 60% good for data as a data analyst. This SQL course is actually more intensive than the Power BI that we did initially, actually.
Okay.
So, but you guys are enjoying. You guys are big people now, enjoyment people.
International remote jobs.
International remote jobs. Okay, so let's look at these two tables. So in this table one, column names. Table 2. I'm trying to look for maybe a sample table with which I can work, like a very small table, so that I can explain what I want to explain. Even if we don't learn the code today, I need you guys to get this explanation. So please, whatever you're doing, try to pay attention. Okay, let's use the same country thing that we've been talking about. So we have ID. Let's call this table country. Let's call this one cities or states. Okay, so we have the country ID, we have country name, and then we have continent. Let's just do this like this, okay? Country ID, name, and continent. So country number 1, we have Nigeria. Continent is what? Africa, okay? Country number 2, we have Ghana. And then we still have Africa. Country number 3, please, another country outside Africa. I'm only familiar with Africa. Please, somebody help me with an example.
Manchester, United Kingdom. Okay. Europe.
Continent, Europe. Okay.
Yeah.
One more. Outside Europe, Asia.
Argentina, South America.
Philippines.
Russia, Asia.
Okay, let me just follow the one that I can spell easily, because this video is going on YouTube. Okay, so we have Russia, Asia. So we have this table here, right? So let's come back to the states. So under states, what we have is state ID. Then we have state name. Then we have country ID. Okay. So in this case now, state ID, state 001. Give me a state in Nigeria. Lagos. Lagos. Country ID. Which country does Lagos belong in?
1.
Nigeria. 1.
Which is 1, okay? Change this to text. Okay, so let's take a second state again. 002. Another country. Another state. Just. Country ID. 1.
1.
003. We have Calabar. Country ID.
1.
004. We have Accra. Country ID.
2.
2.
Yeah, in Ghana, it's only Accra, no?
Ashanti. We have Ashanti also.
Is that the name of a state?
Yes.
Okay, so Ashanti. Okay, so let's have 2 here also. Okay, so these are 2 different tables. Okay, now where joins comes in MySQL is every time we try to retrieve information from a part of a table and another part of a table and join them together to make up one new table. That's where join comes in. Okay, so let's say, for instance, this table, every time we talk about relational database, this is relational database because obviously we can see that these 2 tables are related, aren't they? Because all of these are countries. Countries exist in continents, states exist inside countries, so they are all related together. Are we together? So it's all of these tables, they kind of complement each other. Now, I may not be able to settle down today to explain to you why data is recorded this way, but I hope you are not as curious as to ask me that. If you ask me that, I can spend some time to explain it, but just let's go ahead to discuss the joins. So let's say, for instance, we need to analyze. We need to begin to analyze maybe states in countries and population. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Let me add one more column here to say population. Call these 5,000, 2,000, 4,000. In Accra, let's put 400 for them. I hope we don't have any Ghanaian in class today. Okay, so let's give this 3. Okay, maybe 4,000 too. Okay, so we say who is from? IJ is from Ghana. If IJ following in this class. Okay, so let's say, for instance, we've been required to make an analysis. Okay, an analysis that involves us to take this name of the states, population of the state, and the name of the countries that are in that state. Do you get? And name of the country. We need to put them together into one table. So it means that our new table will look like this. Our new table will have state name, country name. Okay, then we now have population. Let's put continent, and then we have population. Okay, so this is exactly what we are going to have in our new table. Let me expand this a bit. So say we are working with this now. First off, state name is inside this our state table. Country name is inside what? Country table. Continent is inside country table. Population is inside state table. Do you now see this? Are we all together? So in this case, what we have to do is joins. Joins to pick up the columns that we are interested in this table, and the columns we are interested in this table like this, and bring them all together into a new table. So let me just use a color code to see if I can make this more interesting. So let's put this as country color. Put this as, what's the state color? Sorry, continent color. Give it this color. Let's give state another color. And then give population another color. So these are the stuffs we are interested in. Okay. So at the end of the day, if we bring in population here into this place, we should also have these values and then like this. Okay, so how do I merge all of this into one table? Now, where this is not so difficult a topic, okay? Because obviously it's like in Excel, what are we going to say? Just drag it and drop it. But in MySQL, you have to use code to get it. Now, what I need you to understand is the probabilities that we can have in this case, okay? So here, let me explain what I mean by probability. In the case of these names, for instance, here, we have 4 countries here, okay? So if we need to bring out all of these countries and put them under country name, we also have state names here, okay? And this state name that we have seen from this country code, you'd realize that all of these states are from only 2 countries, okay? So if I'm going to bring this here, which one am I dropping? What am I going to bring? How do I know which value for this state should correspond with which value for this country and all of that? This is what we are discussing every time it comes to join. Now, with this, now let's talk about the different kind of joins that we have. First off, in MySQL, we have inner join. That's the first kind of join. Let me use a notepad for that. In SQL, we have inner join, capital letter. We have left join. We have right join. Then we have full or cross join. Okay, so these are the different types of join. So in the case of inner join will always return to us matching columns, matching rows. Okay, I'll explain this. Left joins will return to us rows from left table, Okay, so it will return to us all rows from left. Let me put all rows from left and matching rows from right table. Okay, right join is going to do the direct opposite to bring to us all rows from right, and matching rows from left. Okay, so cross join will return to us everything. Okay, so let's just have this down. These are the different types of joins that we have: inner join, left join, right join, and full or cross join. So now let's come back to this now. Let me ask us a question now. What will be the relationship? What does this table and this table have in common?
Can you go back to that note, Pastor?
Admin, take this.
Okay, I'm done.
You're proud. Okay, I just sent it. All right. So let's get back to this now. So these two tables here that we have here, what do they all have in common? What column do they have in common?
Country ID.
Name.
ID.
Not necessarily name. It's ID. This
Country
ID.
ID.
Okay.
ID.
Let me rename this to ID. Okay. So you see that there's this ID here. There's this ID. Okay. So this is what they have in common. So you know that if I need to pull, let me show you one very funny thing. Let me copy the values here and paste them here under country name. Okay, and then let me copy the values here and paste them under state name. Do you already see the problem? Are you seeing the problem already?
Yes.
Lagos is in Nigeria.
Yes.
But Jos is not in Ghana. Jos is in Nigeria. Calabar is not in Manchester. Do you understand? So it means that I cannot use this pattern to bring out all the values. Okay, so I have to look for a way to sort it in such a way where everywhere where I have Nigeria, everywhere, all of these states here that are in Nigeria, it should all be populated with Nigeria. All of these states that are from Ghana should all be also populated with Ghana. Okay, so that removes anything. Just remove it from your mind. Copying and pasting and all of that will not help you match the rows. Okay, so if these are the two rows that I have for that I have in common, it means that I need to be able to put everywhere I see one here, I need to be able to trail it to the country name, which is one. If I see one here too, I need to be able to trail it here, and one here stands for Nigeria. One here. Okay, so these columns here, they are called keys column. Okay, keys in database. So in the case of this country here where we have ID, we know that these are country IDs. So 1 stands for Nigeria, 2 stands for Ghana, 3 Manchester, 4 Russia. So in this country table, this ID column is called a primary key. Okay, in this second table here, this is state table. So the primary key in this state table is what? State ID.
State ID.
Do you understand? But here where we have country ID, we know that we are making reference to this primary key inside country table. So this country ID in this state table now becomes a foreign key. So here in country ID, we call it a primary key. Okay. Here in state ID, we call it what? Foreign key, because it's only making reference to the values here as a primary key. Now, one of the ways that we also are able to, the second quality of primary key in database is that we don't have duplicates in primary keys. So you can see that under country ID, there are no duplicates. Under state ID, do we have duplicates?
Key. No.
But in foreign key, we can have duplicate of a primary key. Exactly. So this is pretty much what we have here. So in this case now, knowing fully well now that these my IDs and my ID are the at what we have in common rather, it means that if we need to work with this table, we also need to work with that same ID. Okay. So now let's create this table. In the case of inner join now, let's do for the first example, inner join. What did we say inner join would always return? Matching rows. In other words, rows that our table have in common. Okay, so this matching rows is matching rows between what we have in common between these IDs. Okay, so what are the matching rows here? 1, right, and 2. So it means that these are what we have in common, 1 and 2. So if we performed an inner join to join state and country together, what will our output be like? State name, we have Lagos. Let me give you that same color code. Okay, it was a bit quiet now. All right, we are still in class, right? Okay, so the same color code. What's the color code for country name? Let's get back to country. Sorry, I see that I'm teaching you guys with colors. Don't mind me. Okay, lastly, then we have population, right? So if I'm performing an inner join in MySQL, what am I going to have? State name, Lagos. Okay. Country, Nigeria. Continent, Africa. Population, 5K. Are we together? What's the second thing I'm going to have? I'm going to need one person to be helping me out here now. Any confident person?
Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Okay. Nigeria. Continent.
Africa.
Population.
2000.
Next, Calabar. Nigeria. Africa.
4,000.
Next, Accra.
Ghana.
Africa.
400. This is not fair.
Class rep. The way you started that 400. Class rep.
It's not fair. Ashanti. Ghana. Africa.
Okay.
1,000.
Thank you very much. You can all mute your audios now. Okay, so what we have right now, this is exactly the result that inner join will return to us. You know the reason why we have this result? We have this result because these are the only rows that are matching. Do you get? Because the only thing we have in common between this table is 1. We also have 1 here. We have 2 here, and we also have 2 here. Do you see that can you see that we did not capture Manchester? We didn't capture Russia because we don't have any corresponding values for those in this place. Does that make sense? So inner join will always return to us what we have in common, rows that we have in common with our IDs on the new table. So if we did inner join, this will be our result. Make sense? Now let's do the left join. Do we have question with this? Can we go to left join? Goma.
What
What will happen to what?
To Russia and Manchester, no values.
They will not be captured. They will not be captured. They will not be captured in a new table. Okay.
Okay. Okay, sir.
It's still existing here in the original table. It's not just captured
Okay.
in the new table.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. Let's take this out. Say, for instance, we want to do left join. Left join will always capture all rows from our left table. In this case, our left table is country now, and then our right table is states, right? So it will always capture all the rows from our left table and only corresponding rows from our right table. That means that we are going to have something like this: state name, Lagos, country. I need that table back. So we are going to have state name Lagos, Nigeria, blah blah blah, and then we are going to have Ghana and the same thing. This is the result I would have gotten from inner join, right? But now, because we are dealing with left join would also always capture all the rows that we need, that we have in our left table. So it means that we are still going to have under country name, we're going to have Manchester. Sorry, this is state name. Okay, so because there's no state here, under country name, what are we going to have here? Manchester.
And Russia.
Under here we have Europe. Okay. Here we have Russia. And then we have Asia. Okay. So do you now see that we have, because of our left table has because our left table contains these values. In the case of inner join, these values will not have been included because we only take in matching rows. But because on the other hand, when we are dealing with left join takes all the rows from the left and corresponding rows from the right, or matching rows from right. So on our left table now, we have all of these values. So it means that we're going to have null here, null, that's missing values now, and then null, null. You know the reason why? Because we don't have corresponding values for those rows here. We don't have any country containing 3 and 4 in this states row. Does this make sense to us?
Yes, yes, sir.
In the case of, what if we're dealing with in the case of right join, what are we going to get as a result? If we're dealing with right join, we're going to be getting all of these values, all the rows from our right table and only corresponding rows from our left table. So it will give us the same result as inner join because everything in our right table is already captured here. The only place where we would have had a difference, if for instance, if we have 006 and then call me another country somewhere else. Excuse me. Gambia, for
Australia.
instance.
Okay.
Australia
Gambia
is
is
in US. Australia is
in Africa.
Gambia is
well,
It's
sorry,
Africa.
Africa. Give me one more listen from maybe
state name. You're
United
asking for
States.
state name. That's
State
Kumasi,
name. What?
Kumasi, Ghana.
California.
California.
Abi?
Thank you. Yeah. So in California now, we don't have a country for that. We don't have. There's no country name for this. You get, this is a state in the United States, and there's no continent record here. So if, for instance, we had California population is 10,000 in this case, what's going to happen here in our right join? It means our right join will have under state name California,
And the population.
but no country will be here. We'll have no here. We'll have no here for continent because we don't have any corresponding record here for those values, and then we'll have population of 10,000. Okay, does this make sense? So this is what right join would bring. But in the case where, since if we didn't have these values, it means that right join will always give us the exact result. Not always, but in this scenario, right join will give us the exact result that we have with inner join. Do we have a question with it? Do we understand right join? Right join,
yes, sir.
ladies and
Yes,
gentlemen. Okay. Please give me one more response. admin can understand that in ASAP.
Yes, sir.
I am thinking that table will be better used in business. Goma, talk to me. Unmute and talk to me.
No, I think it's my keeper. I'm thinking that left join will be better used in decision making. I'm just saying it.
Okay, you're thinking it will be better using decision making, right? Well,
Yes.
it totally depends on what you want to achieve, okay? Like the data that you need.
Okay, sir.
So in this case, what you could need, inner join could solve the problem for you. Don't worry, I'm going to give us some case scenario. Please mute your audio. I'm going to give us some case scenario so that we can see how this applies to us, okay? We'll get to that in a sec. So in the case of full join, if we have left join, right join, we've done inner join. In the case of full join, we say full join will always return to us everything, okay?
Hello,
So
sir.
everything will mean that, yes, ma'am?
You have removed the California from the left join. I mean, right join.
Right join. Let me put it back.
Please. Thank you.
Let me just put that back. So we said we have understatement, we have California, yeah? And then under population, we have 10,000. Okay, so here we say we're going to have null. We're going to have null because we don't have corresponding value inside this table. Okay, so if we try to do a full join, what would a full join return to us? Full join is going to give us null here for state name, then but to give us Manchester here for country, and then give us Europe here, and then give us null here for population. It's going to also give us null here. Full join will bring everything together. Okay, null here, then give us Russia, then give us Asia, okay, and then give us null here. Do you see that? So full join returns all the values from everywhere together. If we don't, where we don't have corresponding values, it will put null there. Where we have corresponding values, it will give us values there. So this is what full join will return to us, and this is like our entire table. Okay. Yes, Mr. Peter, talk to me, sir.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Yes, boss.
Yeah. Sorry, the way you are doing it, it feels like you are manually filling this thing. I was thinking maybe there is a code or something that we can use for.
No, there's a code. Yes, sir, there's a code. What I'm doing right now is that I'm just trying to explain to you what the result will look like before we go ahead to write the codes.
Okay.
So we'll get back to MySQL. That's why I came to Excel so that we can see it real time as it works.
All right, sir. All right. Sorry.
Obviously, like when we are dealing with hundreds of thousands of rows, we can't be doing manual filling. Like, how long will it take you, even if you are dealing with hundreds people, how long will it take you to compile 100 people's record? It's going to take a lot of time. So there's the automatic way of doing it. This is just the whole of this is just an illustration so that we can see how this works. But then let's talk about because we don't have much time today. I may not get into the code, but in our next class we'll be starting from the code directly. The code is not as difficult. 30 minutes. Let me not make mouth because our classes now, the things that I used to feel like would take us like 10 minutes to explain, sometimes it take us 45 minutes. So, but then the code is not as complex. But once you have this ground understanding that we've laid here and you really understand it, the code will not be difficult anymore. But let me explain the literal application of this, like case scenario. Imagine that you are dealing with, let me see if we really understand this. So guys, imagine that in your company has the total number of staff as one record. On the other hand, we have the I don't know if you know this machine. There's this machine that used to check in for clock in and clock out. Okay, this clock in, that's attendance. We use it for attendance, clock in and clock out. So, and then we have that clock in and clock out database. So it takes record of people, the time they come in every day, all the staff. Yeah, I disabled my screen, sir. I disabled because I want us to talk now. I've stopped sharing. Okay, so I'm giving us a case scenario here. Imagine you're working in a company. Your company has the total numbers of staff in one table. On the other table, we have attendance. attendance was generated from that our clock machine, attendance machine that takes in and clock out. Okay, so and then your company.
Sorry, please. Can everyone see your screen? Are you showing your screen?
No, I'm not sharing my screen. I'm not showing you anything from my screen anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to come back with this again. You're working in a company. Company on one database, one table, it has the total number of staff that are working with that company. On the second table, it has the attendance of all the staff. Okay. And then your boss has asked you to retrieve the names of staff, okay, that have attendance. Okay. So those are the only people that are going to pay for that month. Maybe like government office where some people don't used to come to work entirely. Okay. So you've been asked to retrieve names of only those people who have attendance. So on one hand, you have all the staff. On the other hand, you have names of those people who have attendance. Okay. So what kind of join do you think you can use to bring out the names of only people who have attendance? Inner join, left join, right join, full join.
Right joint.
That's assuming
Because we
so
don't know where.
okay, which one is left and which one is right. So your staff table is your left table, your attendance table is your right table.
Inner join.
Right join.
Inner join.
Right join.
Okay, so you both of you are right. Right join is going to wait. Let me even keep quiet first. Ugoma, why did you say right join? Yeah, come and defend.
Because one of them is the primary key now, the codes. I need from the first table, you said it's the name of the staff. And the second one is attendance. I'll use it to connect. Yes, sir.
No, I don't understand your explanation, ma.
The first table, I'll get my primary key from there, which is the table for the staff. Then the second one is the attendance. I'll now do an inner join to connect this, probably the code, their ID, to this attendance through their ID.
So my question is, what does inner join do in this case? What will inner join do in this case?
It will bring in the people. It will match them. Yes, the staff with the attendance.
Okay, so what I'm expecting you to say is inner join is going to bring out only the names of people that exist in the attendance list and in the staff table. Okay, so anybody whose name is not on the attendance list, the name will not be retrieved from the staff table. Okay,
thank you.
So class rep, you said right join.
Yes, I said right join. Yes.
Okay, so why did you say right join?
Because the right table contains only names of those that have attendance.
Okay, so it means that we're going to get
all the names.
Exactly.
All the names, yes.
Okay, so that totally makes sense. Let me give us this scenario where I use this. There was a time somewhere around last year December/January. This company, they were having some issues. Okay, like it was end of the year audit. Okay, so they're doing all of these audit issues. Company in Lagos. Okay, so the problem that they had was when we were doing audit, the record that they have from bank statements is different from the record that the internal accounting team had. Okay, so money was missing somewhere, but everything was looking the same. So they were trying to look for what these people recorded or what was recorded in the statement of account that the bankers did not capture, or what was recorded on the banker's own end that was not captured in the statement of account. So
reconciliation, Abby?
Yes, it's reconciliation. They're trying to reconcile the both of them, but this time around, they know it wasn't balancing, but they were trying to look for what was missing. Okay, what we have recorded here, and you know that at the end of the year, there were already thousands of transactions that had already passed through the company. So the numbers were a lot. There were a lot of transactions. So when they had those two records side by side, they needed to perform a join. Okay, to get out what existed either in the bank statement that didn't exist in the account statement, or what existed in the account statement that didn't exist in the bank statement. So in this kind of scenario, what kind of join do you think you would have used to get out that information?
Full join.
Can I see that again, please, Mr. Honor?
Inner join.
Okay, let me explain it again. So what I'm saying is, bank statement is here with all the withdrawals and deposits and all the transactions that have been made for the whole year. On the other hand, the accountants, the internal accounting team, also had their own record that they kept manually for all the withdrawals, credit, and transactions. Okay, but at the end of the year, these two statements, they were not reconciling. They were not the same thing. It means that either there was a record that the accountants forgot to insert, or there was a record that the bank didn't capture, but the accountants captured. Okay, so now we need to look for what record exists in the accounting sheet that is not in the banking statement, or what is in the banking statement that the accountant did not record. So what kind of join would we have used to pull out together that kind of information?
Inner join.
Full join.
Pamela, you're looking for the
Inner join.
Inner.
Let's hear Pamela. Pamela, what kind of join did you say we could use?
Inner join.
Okay, so what would inner join achieve for us in that case?
So we're looking for what is in one table and what is not in the other. So definitely we're going to be matching. If we're going to be looking for matching values, then definitely we'll be able to find out what didn't match eventually.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes some sense. Okay. Who else mentioned a different kind of join? Class rep, you also said inner join.
Yes, I said inner join.
Ahmed, what was your own join kind? See Ahmed, I just called you. The guy just disappeared. Ugoma, you said full join.
Yes, sir.
Okay, talk to me. How would full join help in this case?
Yes, because if we retrieve it, if we use the inner join, I will not be seeing the other parts. So I'll use the full join, so I'll get to see everything, all the transactions.
So in that case, now you're going to see, but you'll be having the same thing of everything. So it's like having the table twice.
But some will be having no. The ones we know that is
Exactly.
sorry for.
Yeah, that's for me.
Okay, so it's like saying there are a lot of ways to kill a rat. Gloria, talk to me.
Okay, I think full joins would do the job because we want to see everything together. We want everything to come together to reconcile. So I think full joins would bring everything together, and where there are no values, then we'll have the null. So
Okay, so you guys should bear in mind that what we just said is that in this record we're talking about, there are thousands of rows. So if you use the thousands of rows, do you know that you'll be scrolling down to be looking for nulls? You can be scrolling down for 5 minutes. Okay, it's not like it won't work. Okay, it's just that it's not very efficient. Okay,
Efficient.
Yeah, it's not very efficient because if you have to bring out everything to start looking for where nulls are, or except if you want to argue that you can write conditions, maybe write statements to say where something is null. Okay, so you can obviously pull that off. Okay, but in the case where you have to be scrolling to be looking for nulls, it might not be the most efficient. Okay, so we can use inner join with a bit of condition in Power BI. Power BI, because of this kind of situation, Power BI introduced new kind of joins. Okay, so those kind of joins in Power BI, they are called left anti and right anti. So in the case of left anti is going to bring to you what exists in the left table only, that does not exist in the right table. And then right anti will bring to you what exists in the right table that does not exist in the left table. Okay, so
You didn't teach us that one.
we didn't get to that. I told you now, Power BI is fast.
We will have to go to advanced Power BI.
You guys should come for paid class. You guys should
Oh
come
yeah,
for
we
paid
will.
class. That's what
We
you
will
get.
come.
That's what, like, we didn't get to that. You know that these trainings are, how these trainings work is that they are a 1 month training. Okay, so If, for instance, in that 1 month we are able to cover a lot, that's still good. If we are not able to cover a lot, then we'll just at the end of the month we'll just stop there. Okay, so it's like a time training. It's not that we have to cover the whole curriculum. But in SQL now we are being able to cover so much more than we did with Power BI, because I think all of you now are now advanced. You guys are pros now in data analysis, so we are doing well. When next is the Power BI class? Please, we are on class recording, so let's just leave that discussion until when we close the recording. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. So this is pretty much how joins works, and this is the reason why you need to understand joins, because you can see that like this audit scenario now is like a real world scenario of how we're able to use joins to solve a problem. On the other hand, we talked about the whole attendance things. Sometimes it may not be attendance, it may be customers. Okay, it may be customers and their purchases. So in one hand, you have all the customers' name. On the other hand, you have all the transactions those customers have made. You get, and you want to pick out customers. Like maybe, for instance, let me even ask this one as the last one before we close for tonight. Say you have all the names of your customers on one table, and then on the other hand, you have all the purchases they've made. All of those customers have made on the other hand. Now the question is this: if, for instance, you want to bring out all the customers who have made purchases, because maybe end of the year now, December like this now, you want to send all of them hamper for customers that have been patronizing your business, but you have all your customer names includes people that came to make inquiries, but they've not made any purchases, blah blah blah. So you have like thousands of people, but you have only few paid clients. So what kind of join would you use in this case to get out only customers who have made purchases?
Right.
Given the scenario that the transaction table is your right table and your customers are on your left table, what kind of join would you use?
Right.
Yeah, explain to me first, Fish. You just like right this night.
Because you want to bring out just only the customers that made a purchase and their IDs, what's it called, is at the right hand side, where their real name is at the left hand side. So once you just extract it using that your right joint, it will pull out just only customers that made a purchase in one way or the other with their ID.
Okay, did we all understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No,
So
please.
okay, so what he's saying is, if for instance we have all the transaction on one hand and then we have all the customer name on the other hand, okay, the only one of the ways we can use, since our right table is the transaction table, we can just use the transaction table to as a criteria for bringing out all customers whose name who have made transaction, because on that transaction table, if your name is on that transaction table, it means that you've purchased something. But your name can be on the customer table, but you've never purchased anything. Okay. So in that case, we'll use the transaction table as a criteria to pick out information of those people who have made purchases. On the other hand, inner join will still give us the same result. If, like, seeing the pattern of the explanation we've been making so far, you'd realize that a lot of times two joins can give you the same results. Like inner and right join, you can achieve the same thing with both inner and right join, right? Or sometimes it can
Yes.
be inner and left join, depending on how the table is arranged. So but in this case, the safest option can just be inner join, because inner join brings to you what exists, the names that exist on the customer table, and the names that exist on the transaction tables. So that's what inner join will bring to you. So most times inner join, when you need to bring out those kind of information, inner join might just be the safest option to pull out your stuff. So if we have any questions, we can ask. If we don't have any questions, we can end class for today and then take it up from the code in the next class.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Lord.
Mr. Ono, I just need you to
Press.
show me something. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't. It's just from the other table, that schema side. Sometimes it works sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't understand what you mean. What you mean when
Okay,
you
from
say
the schemas, that side. So should we always click on word and click on table? I just want to know the standard thing we need to click on to be able to do all those runnings.
You don't have to. If I understand your question very well, if you use your use code where we said use database, like in this case here, if you
Yeah.
execute like the use and then you specify the name of the database you want to use. In this case, we have like 3 databases: World, SIS, and Sakila. So
Yeah.
anyone execute this code for you, don't even have to click anything there. You can just continue working. Okay, but
Okay.
you specifically need to know the names of the tables that exist inside the database for you to be able to work
So
with.
how
And
do
for
we so how do we know the one to click on? Like, what's the
no, like
criteria?
uh, criteria is depending on you. Okay, if I understand your question, depending on what table. Like for me, the majority of what we've been doing has been on country table, right?
Okay.
We've been using country table, but how I got to know that there's a country table inside this is because I went to world and then went to the drop down for tables and then see the name of the table we've been using since country table. I feel like we can relate to it more. This Sakila, it has a lot of tables inside, but the tables are movie. This is like a movie industry, okay? So we have names of
Okay.
actors in one table, addresses, category of movies, the city and country, blah blah blah. We have a lot of tables here, so it's a movie thing. So I just went to World directly because we can all relate with it, or relate to
Okay.
it rather. So what you
Okay.
need to do is you can always scroll through and check the names of the table that exist in your database to know which one you want to be pulling out information from, and then practice your using your
Okay.
code. But majority of what you'll be doing will not be on these schemas. It will be with your code.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions for tonight?
I
You don't have a question? All right. Okay. That'll be all for today, guys. Thanks for